The Saudi Arabian League was in the center of attention of the footballing world last summer. They were making outrageously expensive transfers. They were bringing elite players in their prime. Within a couple of months, the Saudi League turned from a retirement league into a horror story of European football executives.
I'm scared.
But what if I told you that China did it first, less than a decade ago? In this video, I'm going to talk about the rise and fall of the Chinese spending spree in football. It all starts with China's football-loving leader Xi Jinping, a man who had the dream, or perhaps still has the dream, to make Chinese football great, to excel in a thing which, for a variety of reasons, did not really take root in an otherwise sport-loving country like China. By the way, I'm going to make a video on why China is not good at football, so make sure to subscribe to Football On Site to watch it soon. So Xi Jinping has this dream, and in 2014 he starts taking steps to make it come true. That year China introduced football into the school curriculum. The following year they adopt a 50-point plan to develop football in China. There was a 3-stage goal set by the Chinese government. Xi wants the Chinese national team to first qualify for another World Cup, and then host it, and then finally win it by 2015. Sure, this is all very fascinating and ambitious, and I'm going to talk about this plan in detail in that very video I promised you earlier. So this football reform plan also envisaged improving the Chinese Football League. At the time, many Chinese football teams like Guangzhou Evergrande, Shanghai SIPG were already owned by major Chinese corporations, and money was already flowing into the Chinese football. The first notable transfer splash was made by Shanghai when they signed Nicolas Anelka and then Didier Drogba in 2012 for massive salaries. You may say that both were past their primes at this point, but do not forget that this was right after Drogba scored that massive goal in the Champions League final. But the best was yet to come for Chinese football fans. In 2015, major money started flowing into Chinese football, and man, did they absolutely go on a nasty shopping spree. Club-owning corporations thought about spending on football as the easiest way to curry favor with the government. In the winter transfer market of 2016-17, the Chinese Super League spent a whopping 388 million euros on player transfers in just 2 months. In 2016, Shanghai signed Brazilian first-team players Oscar for 60 million euros and Hulk for 55 million euros. At the time, Oscar was considered one of the best playmakers in the world, and he chose the Chinese league over European giants like Juventus, Inter, Milan and Atletico Madrid. The same team signed Carlos Tevez for a reported salary of $41 million per year, which made him the highest paid footballer in the world. Guangzhou Evergrande purchased Atletico's Jackson Martinez for 42 million euros. Other big names like Alessandro Pato, Yannick Carrasco, John Obi Mikel, Ezequiel Lavezzi all signed with Chinese teams in the upcoming years. There was a feeling that Chinese league was about to become a new superpower, with European teams and managers worrying that the Chinese financial might would overtake their spending ability. Chelsea's manager Antonio Conte said after Oscar left, "The Chinese market is a danger for all teams in the world, not only for Chelsea." Arsene Wenger reiterated this perception. China looks to have a financial power to move a whole European league to China. But it looks like at some point the Chinese authorities got worried with their own spending. I mean, it was really excessive. Sure, it raised interest in Chinese football and it raised its profile, but it didn't do anything for the long-term development of Chinese football. So in 2017, the Chinese Football Federation decided to adopt a luxury tax. Any club to spend more than $7 million on overseas players would have to pay the same amount of money to the Chinese Football Youth Development Fund. Failure to do so would result in point deductions for the punished club. But even that did not stop the Chinese clubs from overspending for a while. In 2019, Jiangsu Suning wanted to lure Gareth Bale by making him the most well-paid player in the world with a £1 million a week offer for 3 years. But then the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world. In December 2020, the Chinese Football Association imposed a salary cap on Chinese teams. Now, overseas players could not receive a salary of more than 3 million euros. Chinese clubs were not allowed to spend more than roughly 85 million euros per year. But by then, the Chinese government already had an idea to remove corporation names from team names, hence owning a football club started losing its appeal for these corporations. And as the Chinese corporations were hit hard by lockdown and its impacts, the easiest way to cut spending for them was to give up on the funding of their football teams. In February 2021, the reigning champion Jiangsu Suning got dissolved after Suning Holdings Group decided to cut its football spending. Several other corporations followed their example and their football teams ceased their operation. So only about 3-4 years after reaching the pinnacle of football spending, the Chinese teams decided to go back to their modest ways. Sure, Oscar is still playing in the Chinese Football League, but otherwise it doesn't really have any massive names anymore. The Chinese government is still working on developing their football long term, which I'm going to talk about in another video, but they have stopped looking for glamorous shortcuts like overspending for football stars to reach that goal anymore. I'm going to make more videos on football trends, football history and social aspects of football, and make sure to follow this channel to get this content. See you on the next one.